welcome back to our channel. I'm Danielle, your resident romantic.
And I'm Lindsay, the fantasy fan, and we are friends
Till the bookends. Today we are doing a not quite 5-star book recommendation. These are all 4.5 stars that we thought are really super awesome, except for maybe one or two things.
Just missed the mark.
But they still should absolutely be read, and everyone should take a look at them. So the first one that I have, this is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. Mm-hmm. This is the first book in the All Souls trilogy. This was so well done. It is a romance. It is also a little bit of like paranormal. Basically, you have Diana, who grew up with witches. She is a witch, but she has shunned that part of her because she just wants to be a normal human. And then as she's working...
It's overrated.
True. As she's working in the library, she's, I think, working on her PhD, or a big conference is coming up as she's a professor, something along those lines. She meets Matthew, who is a vampire, which, like, right away, you know that's going to be a sizzling love story. And basically, there is this enchanted book that Diana calls out, and then she sends back to the library, and...
Stupid.
I know, right? Again, all of these supernatural creatures are coming out like, whoa, that book was important. Only this girl can get it. We gotta get that book back. And so Diana has to kind of figure out whether she wants to kind of ignore what's going on and just keep going with her full human life, or if she's like, all right, I've got to enter back into the witch world. Let me see what's going on. And then also Matthew is by her side, where it's like, I'll support you in whatever you want to do, but also these are the things that you need to realize, consequences and stuff like that. This is supposed to be a trilogy. However, the way that this first book ended, I thought actually wrapped the first book up nicely.
Okay.
Like, the person who recommended this to me was my coworker's fiance, and I was texting her about it, and I was like, it almost feels like I don't need to read the other two books. Like, to me, this wrapped it up, and she's like, I totally felt that. So if you have read the first book, please let me know in the comments what you felt about the ending. Keep it spoiler-free, of course, but, like, what are your main vibes? Because I thought it was such a good book, but I don't think it should have been a trilogy. Because
the way... just a standalone.
Right. Which, I mean, that is not the reason it got a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 is because there are 575 pages in here, roughly. And it is so painstakingly slow sometimes. Like, it's so overly detailed, you could have easily cut it down by 100 and still gotten everything across. So it was worth it in that I read 575 pages, but you should know that going into it, because I read the first chapter and I was like, should I DNF this? And then I read the second chapter and I was like, let's go, what's going on? So just keep that in mind. It is a little bit slower paced and very detailed, but at the same time, it's so full of romance, it's so full of paranormal, and it's got so much going on with it that it almost seems like it would be overwhelming, but it's not. Like, it's so well done. So 4.5 out of 5, you should read it, and let me know what you feel about the ending.
So the first book that I want to talk about is actually a manga series, and that is the Full Metal Alchemist series. This is book 1. This was so good. Obviously all of these books are 4.5, so I'm gonna try and stop saying that every time I hold up a book. So we're following Edward and his brother Alphonse, and they dabbled into the world of alchemy as children when they shouldn't have, and as a result, Edward loses his arm and his leg in an accident, and his brother Alphonse loses his entire body, and his soul has been transported into a suit of armor. It sounds terrible, but it's kind of funny. So we're following Ed and Al as they're kind of going on a quest to figure out how to get Al's body back, and how to bring someone back from the dead. And they ally themselves with the state, and they go on these adventures, and it's just really good. The characters are really fantastic. I just have a hard time giving graphic novels and mangas 5 out of 5 stars because the series, it's short, it's like one installment, and there's not as much text, obviously, on the page, so sometimes I feel as if I would miss something, or things could have been explained a little better, but the art style is really neat. Trying to show you one without spoiling this, but this is, it's pretty cool. That's Al in his suit of armor, and that's Edward. But it's a really cool series. I've read the first, I think, 6 installments of it.
Oh, wow.
So I plan to continue, but Really good, and the anime is very good as well. So
Good.
you really get 2-for-1 recommendation here.
So the next one for me, I read this on ebook, so I don't physically have it here, but I will pop it up there. This was The Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe.
Oh, did you read it? Did you
I
like
did read it. So this focuses on, it's a queer romance. It is set in the 1950s in Chinatown. Lily is Chinese or Chinese American. She was born there, but her father, he got proper paper. He emigrated here, and he has proper paperwork and everything. During all of this, the Red Scare is also going on, so everyone is always concerned about communism. Are you a communist? Are you doing anything that people are going to think you're a communist for?
Yeah, people kind of lost their damn minds.
Yes, and also in the midst of this, Lily is discovering she might not be straight. He meets Kath. Kath is also a lesbian. I say also because Lily, isn't quite sure where she is, but of course she does realize what's going on. And so Kath takes her to a lesbian bar, the Telegraph Club. And what ensues from there is a lot of drama going on with the family, both about communism and also when they realize what's going on with Lily.
Yeah.
And so overall, I thought it was such a well-written book. It incorporated a lot of things that the synopses said, but it was also so well-written. The only thing is, kind of like the book by Deborah Harkness, it was really slow sometimes. Like, I felt like the author...
Pacing was kind of,
Right, the pacing was off because the author was trying to give you that full, like, Chinese culture vibe, and so I thought that was awesome, but it just got a little too detailed and a little too long between each, let's say, climactic moment. So it was a little hard to keep going for it, but overall, I really loved it. I would say it's probably one of the best queer romances I've ever read.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was so great because it is a queer romance set in the 1950s where it's still largely like, how taboo, like that is, how dare you, you are disowned. And I mean, I know that there's still things like that going on nowadays in the 21st century, but it's just totally different.
Yeah.
So I really thought it was written well. You should absolutely check it out.
So, the next book for me that was almost a 5-star is Gothic, Jaden Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and I actually have a second book by her later on in this video that I've recently read. But this book was so good. Like, this is a fantasy novel. It's short. It's only about 330 pages, and to be able to make a full-blown fantasy world with 330 pages is very impressive. So, essentially, we're following our main character, Cassiopeia, who is living in the Jazz Age in Mexico, and her family is wealthy. However, her grandfather has disowned her mother for running off with a man and having Cassiopeia, and so once her father dies, her mother comes back with Cassiopeia to live in that household, and they're basically treated as servants. So she does not get the benefit of being part of this kind of wealthy, prestigious family. So her grandfather keeps this secret box in his room, and nobody knows what it is, and he's the only one that has the key. And one day, after like a big blowout fight with him and another member of the family, Cassiopeia decides that she's gonna open it. And so she opens it, and she unleashes the god of death, who has been trapped in there for, I think it was like 60 years, by her grandfather. And the god of death enlists her to help him reclaim the underworld, because his treacherous brother has stolen it from him.
Oh.
And this was so good. Can I tell you?
Please tell me.
Let me tell you.
I'm listening.
It was so good. It was just so good. The characters are so good. The plot was so unique. I want to read more books set in Mexico because of this author. And the mythology was really cool because you're getting a lot of you get a lot of Mayan mythology, and the descriptions of the buildings, the places, the food, the dress. So good. And like I said, it was all done in 330 pages, which is so impressive to me. I did not love the ending. I see why the author chose to do the ending as she did, but it wasn't really my favorite, which is why it didn't get a full 5 out of 5 stars. But you should definitely read it because it was so fun, so unique, and the cover is pretty.
Next one that got a 4.5 as opposed to a full 5 is Hot and Badgered by Shelley Lawrenston. Now, before I go into a short synopsis and why it got what it did, based off of the title and the book cover, please tell me a rough genre or quick sentence what you think this might include.
Sex.
Yes. No.
Yes. No?
No. There may be a few romantic moments at the end, But the way that I thought this book was going to go was a lot of romance, a lot of sexy scenes, a lot of...
There's a naked man on the cover.
There's a naked man on the cover, and it's called Hot and Badgered, which we all know what play on words that is. Okay, so there's like 400 pages in here. They don't kiss till page 300.
What?
Please tell me why it was set up like this, because that is the only reason it got a 4.5 as opposed to a full 5. So you have Berg and you have Charlie, and they are shapeshifters.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, Charlie is, I believe, full honey badger.
It's a strange creature to pick.
Right, like you would think it's going to be like kind of more mundane shapeshifters, but it's not. So she is a honey badger, and Berg is a grizzly bear shapeshifter. Ooh. And there's also tiger shapeshifters in here. Okay. There is, I think there's another like some kind of Wolverine shapeshifter.
Oh boy.
Yes. So Berg and Charlie, they accidentally run into each other as Charlie is escaping an assassin kind of thing because she is on the run. There's a lot of drama going on with her family. People are hunting down her father, but to get to her father, they try to get to her.
Yes.
Right. And there is so much drama going on with that. And Berg is, I guess what you could call like not a cuddly teddy bear, but he's like, I'll come protect you. Like, I'm protective as hell. I'm a grizzly bear. That's what we do. And so even though he met this girl as she was running through his hotel room while someone was shooting at her, he was like, I gotta protect you. Let's do this. I really love this book. I've never read a pure shapeshifter book before. It was so fascinating and so bingeable. Like, I could not put it down, even though there was not a lot of romance going on. Which is the only reason...
I feel like it looks via the marketing that it would be...
Yes, so this is also another clickbaity issue for me, which is why I did not get a full 5 out of 5. I thought there could have been a heck of a lot more romance in here, given the cover and the name of it. But at the same time, I was not disappointed too hard because the book was so well written. Like, I want to read other things by Shelley Lawrenston, whether it has romance or not. Like, it was so good. And if you've ever thought, like, do I really want to read a shapeshifter? That sounds like a weird synopsis or, like, category. This was so funny. Like, there was one character who was half honey badger and half tiger, and she also had, like, a panic disorder. Oh. So anytime someone startled her, she'd jump in a tree, like a cat would. Like, it was so comical and funny and adorable. But there should have been more romance, Shelley.
My next almost 5-star book is Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore, and this is a historical romance. This was so cute. So we're set in England in the late 1800s, right around the time of the suffragette movement. And you have our character, Annabelle, who is destitute. So she has no money to her name, but she's smart. So she gets accepted into a program at Oxford under the condition that like her scholarship is provided by like a women's rights organization, and so she has to participate in it in order to receive her scholarship. And so their goal is to be lobbying the influential men of this time period to vote for women's right to vote. And so she gets tasked with the job of bringing this one duke into their party, and things escalate from there because this duke, his name is Duke Montgomery. He is like
how British.
It is very British. He's very like crotchety and like kind of grumpy, Mr. Grumpy Grump. And he is not interested in joining their movement, but it's up to Annabelle to convince him. And there's miscommunication, there's dramatic exits, there's a third act, there's a revival of the romance, like. And this is a series, and so the next book follows a different set of characters, and the third book follows another set of characters that you meet. This was just really cute and well done. There's no, like, real reason that I could pick out why it didn't get a full 5 out of 5 stars. It just didn't have that same feeling a 5 out of 5 stars gets. But it was very good. It was funny. It was witty. I love Duke Montgomery. He's a cutie. Like, underneath it all, he's a sweetheart. And I really liked the topic of the women's suffragette movement because I thought that was something that I haven't really read a whole ton about before in a fictional setting. So it was very good. Recommend. I still haven't read the second book, but hopefully soon I will get to it.
If I may, it almost sounds like Duke Montgomery is maybe like a Mr. Darcy vibe.
Mr. Darcy vibe, kind of.
Because that's kind of, and I mean that's coming from someone who hasn't read.
Like a little snobby. I mean, he's rich. Annabelle isn't. So I can definitely maybe. That's why I like it, as I see the parallels. Good point.
The next one for me is Breathe by Abby Glines, if you can. So this is YA fiction. It focuses on 17-year-old Sadie. She lives with her mom. Her mom is the maid for this family in general, but specifically for 17-year-old Jax. He is a musician, and when Sadie's mother is out on maternity leave, Sadie's mother experiences postpartum depression, and she does not have any energy to take care of the baby or to go back to work. And they live alone. They don't have a father figure in there. So Sadie is like, I'll work as the maid. Just let me take my mom's place. I'll be fine. And so she starts working there. She's making good money, and then she meets Jax. Jax is rich.
Yes.
Jax is hot. Jax is musical.
Wow, sounds perfect.
Right. It's great chemistry right from the beginning, and it's very steamy, very hot, very swoon-worthy. The only reason it didn't get a full 5 is because the big turning point in the book was very, very cliche. You could really see it coming a mile away. I thought that was really kind of lame, but I also thought that I liked how the author wrote about postpartum depression at the end kind of thing and gave the wrap-up there. And it was so steamy. It was so good. Like, it surpassed above a 4 because it was so steamy.
Yeah.
Like, it made up for the cliche any little.
So my next book is the second book by this author on this list, and that is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And I just read this recently, so you should check out our last video, one of our last videos, which is where we read, like, our favorite booktubers. And this book was so weird and so good. So once again, we're set in Mexico, but this time we're set in the 1950s, and we're following a character named Noemi, whose cousin has married a mysterious outsider, and once she marries that man, she goes to live in his scary little haunted castle thing, and no one hears from her. Until she sends this weird letter about how she's being kept captive. There's people in the walls, she hears voices, and Noemi goes to investigate to see if she can help her cousin. And when she gets there, she finds this conspiracy based in eugenics and mushrooms, and
The mushrooms.
the mushroom part really gets me. And this book took so many strange turns I couldn't have predicted. It was very creative. It was very unique. Once again, like, it's a pretty short book for being so captivating. And I just thought that the characters, like, are not perfect. Like, they have their flaws and whatnot, but they are compelling, and you want Noemi to, like, succeed in her goal in helping her cousin, but at the same time, you're like, what is going on with this weird-ass family, and what is their deal? It's very creepy. And it really would be a perfect thing to read around Halloween. I'm kind of bummed I didn't read it around Halloween, because I think it would have maybe given it that 5 out of 5 kind of thing. But
the aesthetics of it.
Yeah, so it didn't get a full 5 out of 5 because some parts were a little confusing for me. Could totally be a me thing, but sometimes I felt like we skipped from one plot point to the next, and I was a little confused about how we got there, and then I'd have to go back and reread and pick up on, like, very slight clues that the author left. But it was very good. I'm really excited for this author's next book, which I believe comes out in August. Velvet Was the Night. So I think that one is also set in Mexico, and I believe, like, in the 1970s. So she is a new auto-buy author, pretty much. So you should read it.
Okay. All right, so the last 4.5 out of 5 for me. This is The White Princess by Philippa Gregory.
I don't think I've heard of this one.
You should read it. I think you'd love it. It's a
It's
historical
Star
fiction.
series. Oh!
Yes! Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't typically read historical fiction. I just, not because I purposely avoid it, but because a lot of times there's not romance involved with it, so it's hard
I'm not interested.
It's hard to get me to read a book that doesn't have romance in it. I know, I'm working on it. So I read this one because it sounds very interesting. It is a historical fiction. It looks at Henry Tudor and his relationship with Elizabeth and what, goes on from there. I really don't know history too well, I'm going to be honest. So I actually learned a bit of history from
that's
reading this book.
awesome. Yes.
Right? Which honestly is always the way to get me to remember history, is put it in book form and I will remember it. This was so good. I will say that my opinion on this is really personal because the only reason it didn't get a 5 is there was not enough romance. However, it's a historical fiction. Like,
yeah.
I can't say that you're not going to give it a 5 out of 5. But I would have liked a little bit more romance. I thought it was awesome though, because there was, like, some, like, girl power going on here, but also you know, being put in your place, which was the style for the time period in England.
Right.
And I thought it was so interesting. There are other books that she has written about historical fiction, and I believe they all were turned into original series on Starz. I haven't watched it yet. I want to get the other books. I want to read them. I was so enthralled by it. Like, I can't tell you the last history book I can't tell you the last history fiction book I've read and, like, actually enjoyed. This one takes, like, actual, like, real historical characters. Like, that is where you usually lose me. Because then I'm like, okay,
because they have to follow a certain script.
Right, exactly. Yes. Like, you can take liberties when it's a fiction book. You're right, though.
Maybe this is Danielle's new genre.
But yeah, it was just really awesome. Whether you like historical fiction or not, I think you should read it. You are a history teacher, or history major at least. You got a degree in history. You are historical. You should read this.
Thank you.
Please read it.
Okay. Alright, so my last almost 5-star book is Sky Hunter by Marie Lu. First of all, this cover is so cool, and look at
so nice. I like it.
I know, right? So in this book, we're following our character named Talon, who is part of this nation it's very tiny, it's a very small nation, and they are the last country to hold out against this mega power that has basically consumed and conquered all the other lands around them. And so they are the last remaining free land. And it's their job to kind of defend their borders and also defend from these, like, ghoul things that are being made by the other country's army that are, like, basically, I don't even know what they are. They're kind of like creepy vampire things. And once you get bitten by them, it's game over. So we're following Talon as she goes out and kind of has to defend the country. She doesn't actually speak because when she was little, she was in an attack by this country that cost her her voice. So she communicates completely through sign language.
Oh, awesome.
And, which benefits them because she has to be completely quiet out in the wilderness or else these ghoul things are going to come and murder them. But when she's out there one day, she discovers a boy who is escaping from the other side and seeking freedom, and his name is Red. And there's more to Red than meets the eye because it turns out that he is, like, this country's greatest weapon, and they will do anything in their power to get him back. Oh. So good. Didn't expect to like it as much as I did, which I think is why it got a 4.5 out of 5. I just was taken by surprise. I will say that it didn't get a full 5 out of 5 stars because it's not anything that I haven't read before. Like some of the stuff was unique and some of it wasn't. So, you know, it's kind of like the Chosen One trope with the military. The ending was very good, though, and I'm very excited. The second book, I believe, comes out in September. It's a duology, so it's only a twofer. But it's really good, and I think you should read it.
Honestly, I really liked Mary Lou with her duology for Warcross, so I might actually check this out.
It was surprisingly very good.
Good.
Like, I was surprised. That's my surprise face. So you should read this.
Alright, well, those are some of the awesome books that are 4.5 for us. Didn't quite make it to the 5 mark, but still definitely readable and bingeable, so you guys should absolutely pick it up. Let us know if you've read any of these books and what you think about down in the comments, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye!